Like, out of all the foods in the world, chicken, beef, fish, everything, why is pork the one that's completely off limits? Is it religious? Is there a specific reason? Or is there something deeper going on? Because here's the thing, once you really understand it, it starts to feel less like a rule and more like a system. Let's start with the obvious. In Islam, pork is forbidden. It's clearly stated in the Quran. So, from a believer's perspective, that alone is enough. In the Sausage Party, the Indian food in the supermarket lives by a strict set of divine rules regarding the great beyond. They believe humans are gods and that following certain behaviors will lead them to salvation. The point is, if God said don't eat it, you simply don't eat it. But here's where it gets interesting. Because when you zoom out, this isn't just Islam. Judaism also forbids pork. And considering what's happening in the world right about now, it's kinda ironic that Judaism and Islam actually agrees on something. Which means this rule has existed for thousands of years. And now the question becomes, why would multiple religions across time agree on this one specific animal? Well, for that, we have to look at the environment. Go back to ancient times, places where Islam and Judaism were abundant. The Middle East desert regions, hot climate, limited water, harsh conditions. Now imagine trying to raise pigs there. Pigs don't sweat properly. They need a lot of water. They eat basically anything, including waste, their own waste. So, in a place where resources are already limited, raising pigs is inefficient. And eating them is, well, very risky because pork spoils faster in heat. It can carry parasites if not cooked properly. So, avoiding it actually makes survival easier. In Minecraft, you don't just eat anything randomly. You learn what's safe, what gives you health. Example, if you eat uncooked chicken in Minecraft, you'll get poisoned. And over time, those choices turns into rules. That's basically what early human societies did. But instead of patch updates, they passed it down as law. But wait, if it was just about survival, why is it still followed today? We have refrigeration, hygiene, modern cooking, so why continue? Because now, when it comes to Islam or for certain individuals, it's not just about health, it's about discipline. So, if we think about it, Batman doesn't follow rules just because they're convenient. He follows a code. Same with Spider Man. He could cross certain lines, but he doesn't. Why? Because rules shape identity. For Muslims, avoiding pork is part of that identity. It's a daily physical reminder of faith, not just I believe, but I live by it. And here's something most people don't think about. In Islamic culture or in your respective day-to-day life, when you have restrictions like don't eat pork, you actually become aware of what you consume. You check ingredients, you think before eating. That awareness, that's intentional. In Attack on Titan, people live inside walls with strict rules. At first, it feels limiting, but those rules exist for a reason. Protection, structure, survival. Break them blindly and things, well, fall apart. Same idea applies here. Religious laws aren't always just about the surface reason. Sometimes they're about building a system that keeps a community stable, consistent, and connected. And here's the twist. Even if someone, let's say a Jew or a Muslim, doesn't know the historical or scientific reason behind why pork is considered haram, they still follow it. When Goku activates his Ultra Instinct, he doesn't need to think about how to dodge the attack. His body just knows that getting hit by a point-blank Broly's broccoli breath is a death sentence, so it automatically makes his body dodge the attack. But even then, it goes even deeper than muscle memory. Think about Full Metal Alchemist, the law of equivalent exchange. To gain something, something of equal value must be lost. For a Muslim, giving up pork isn't just about losing a food option. It's an exchange. You trade a temporary physical craving for spiritual discipline. You're telling your brain, I am the master of my impulses. In a world where everyone is a slave to their next dopamine hit, scrolling TikTok, eating junk, instant gratification, having a no-fly zone for your stomach is a power move. It's internal sovereignty. And let's talk about the system aspect again when it comes to pork being haram. In the Matrix, Neo doesn't just wake up and know Kung Fu. He has to follow the rules of the simulation until he understands how to bend them. In Islam, the halal system acts like a user interface for life. It filters the world for you. When you walk into a grocery store, when you're just a consumer, you're a player with a specific quest. You're looking for a specific symbols. You're checking the metadata of your food. It forces you to be Neo, seeing the code behind the steak or the gelatin in the candy. You aren't just eating, you're interacting with the source code of your morality. In Among Us, the game only works because there are tasks and boundaries. If everyone just did whatever they wanted, there's no game. Religious dietary laws are like the tasks on the scale. They created a shared reality. When two Muslims who have never met sits down to eat, they already have a protocol in place. They don't need to ask, hey, is there bacon in this? They already know the lobby rules. It's an instant community connection. It's the green name that tells you who is on your team in a massive global multiplayer map. And if you look at the science side one more time, look at The Last of Us. One tiny fungus, one wrong thing consumed, and the entire world collapsed into chaos. Ancient laws were basically the first antivirus software. Before we had microscope to see trichinosis or tapeworms, we had prophets. They were the original system administrators, warning the user that the pork.exe file was corrupted and would crash the hardware. Sure, we've patched the meat with FDA regulations and refrigerations now, but the legacy code remains because it worked. It kept the server running for 1,400 years. Thanos had a vision for balance. He believed that without restrictions, the universe would consume itself. In a way, the prohibition of pork is a vote for balance. It's a statement that humans shouldn't just consume everything they see just because they can. It's about restraint. In a survival of the fittest world, the pig is an easy win. It grows fast, it eats trash, it's cheap. But by saying no, you're opting out of the easy mode of survival. You're choosing the hardcore difficulty, where every meal is a conscious decision. In Cyberpunk 2077, in the Night City, everyone is modding their body, plugging into whatever feels good, and consuming synthetic slop just to get through the day. The cops don't care what you eat as long as you keep paying. Choosing to avoid pork in a world that puts bacon on literally everything, donuts, vodka, even toothpaste, is like being a netrunner who refused to install a corrupted piece of software. You're protecting your hardware. You're saying my OS doesn't support this file type. It's a deliberate choice to remain unglitched in a consumerist dystopia. And if we look at the social engineering of it, think about Pokemon. Different types are different resistance and weakness. Water is weak to electricity. Fire is weak to water. It's a balance. In human history, different cultures type themselves through food. The Romans loved pork. It was a status symbol. It was the Charizard of their diet. By making pork haram, early Islamic society wasn't just following a health rule. They were creating a cultural firebox. They were making themselves resistant to the influence of outside empires. If you can't share a meal of roasted pig with the conquering general, you can't be easily absorbed into his culture. It's a social firewall. It keeps the community encrypted from outside interference. In Breaking Bad, Walter White had one rule: stay out of my territory. He was obsessed with the purity of his product, 99.1%. Anything less was a failure of the system. For a believer, the purity of what goes into the body is the same thing. It's about quality control. If you start compromising on small things, a little bit of lard here, a pepperoni there, the quote-unquote product, which is your spiritual integrity, starts to degrade. It's not just about meat, it's about the standard. Once you lower the bar for what you consume, you lower the bar for how you act. It's a slippery slope towards becoming a street grade version of yourself. You're a person who has control. But here's the final perspective you won't hear often. Just because pork is haram in Islam doesn't mean that eating it makes you dirty or a villain. Think about John Wick. He lives by a very specific, very lethal code of the Continental. No business on hotel grounds. Those are the rules of his world. But does he think the guy outside the hotel eating a burger is evil because he's not part of the guild? No, he's just a civilian playing a different game with different rules. In League of Legends, different champions have different builds. A tank needs armor. A mage needs ability power. If a mage buys a tank item, it's not necessarily evil. It's just a misaligned build. It's suboptimal for the role they're trying to play. For a Muslim, pork is just a build that doesn't fit the character stats they're trying to max out. It's like Superman and Kryptonite. Kryptonite isn't dirty or immoral. It's just a rock. But for him, it's a weakness. For everyone else, it's just a glowing green paperweight. At the end of the day, it's about perspective. Geralt follows the Witcher's code. It's a set of rules that keeps him neutral and focused. He doesn't look down on peasants in the tavern for eating whatever they find. He knows they aren't fighting the same monster he is. The restriction isn't a judgment on the food. It's the standard for the user. So whether it's ancient biology, desert survival, or just a 1,400-year-old terms of service agreement, avoiding pork isn't about hate. It's about intentionality. So yeah, it might look like a simple food rule from the outside, but when you look at it, it's more like a system that's been running for thousands of years. Still active, still followed, still shaping millions of lives every single day. But like I said, at the end of the day, eat whatever you want. Believe in whatever or whoever you want. As long as it doesn't hurt or cause harm to others, everything is fair game. You want to eat pork? Fine. I mean, it is delicious. You don't want to eat pork? That's also fine. You live your life. Let others live their lives.